My honest feeling on this is that if Ellen White herself had not said, "Don't make me a test of fellowship," that by now we would have.
Hey guys, so I get asked a lot about all the different podcasts that I host, and people will often approach me responding to an episode of one of the podcasts that I run, and they won't actually specify which one because they don't realize that I host multiple. And so today I actually wanted to talk to you about one of the different podcasts that I host. Now, most people know me by Absurdity. That's the first podcast that I started, and it's the longest running one that I have, and it's the most consistent one that I have as far as release is concerned. We release on a weekly basis. But one of the ones that I'm really privileged to be a part of and that I love hosting is called the Echo Podcast. Now, the Echo Podcast was created in partnership with the Carolina Conference just a couple of years ago. And I have the privilege of hosting that show. I don't do any editing or the production side of it. All I do is pick the content, schedule guests, and I take care of actually hosting the show. Now, while Absurdity deals with, religion, culture, and society, and is something that I don't consider necessarily an Adventist podcast, the Echo Podcast is 100% an Adventist podcast. We deal with a lot more themes and greater questions dealing with faith and life within Seventh-day Adventism. In fact, one of the most important things about Echo is that we try and sit down with two different people, usually a pastor and a layperson, and we try to share opinions and actually talk through important questions on faith and life that young adults face. A lot of people have been asking me where all my Adventist content is, and let me tell you, it's right there with Project Refresh. So if you head over to theprojectrefresh.org, not only will you find the Echo Podcast, but you'll find several other shows and media content that is tailored to young adults and tailored to the life context that young adults are in. Now, I love Echo, I love hosting it, and we're gonna share a couple clips here in just a second of some of my favorite parts of hosting it, but we are 3 seasons in, almost 60 episodes into hosting Echo, and we have no intention of stopping anytime soon. Some of the topics we've discussed are where your money goes in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I actually had the chance to sit down with 2 pastors, one from a regional conference and one from a state conference, if you will, to talk about, regional conferences. Do we still need them? What's their purpose? What's the history behind them? And we have a discussion. It is not an argument, it's not a debate, but it's simply a discussion to learn more and to understand more. We also talk about Ellen White, and we ask the question, how important is she to the individual Seventh-day Adventist? And what if I don't fully believe her or believe that she's a prophet? What if I have some doubts or things that I'm wrestling with there? So we answer those questions as well. It has been a great privilege for me to be a part of hosting the Echo Podcast. And it's not just audio, but it's video as well. And so you can go over to YouTube and look up The Project Refresh. You can find Echo Podcast on pretty much any podcasting streaming site and now YouTube as well. It is really cool, and I hope you will check it out. Episodes are only 20 to 30 minutes with the occasional special episode that we do that goes beyond that limit. The Echo Podcast is free, and I plan to keep hosting this as long as they'll let me. It is a great and fun podcast to host. We usually record in seasons, and so we're in the middle of season 3 right now, and that's being pushed out. We'll be recording season 4 in early 2020 and be getting that out in about mid-2020. And so I hope that you will enjoy this podcast. I hope that you'll connect with everything that the Project Refresh is doing. And I'm excited to see what the future holds with that podcast, as well as with all the different projects that I'm involved in. Hey, thank you so much for being on this journey with me, and thank you for supporting all the different content that I've been pushing out over the last several years. It is a privilege of mine to be pushing out meaningful content like this that actually can make a difference in the lives of those that listen and consume it. And if you're interested in Echo, here are a few clips, some of my favorite moments that we've experienced on the show so far as we're entering 2020.
My honest feeling on this is that if Ellen White herself had not said, "Don't make me a test of fellowship," that by now we would have. Because she is pretty highly regarded.
Yeah.
Almost every Adventist I know does accept her as an authoritative, not as authoritative as the Bible, but still authoritative. But you do not have to believe that she was a true prophet in order to be an Adventist.
Well, something that I love that answer, because I also believe the same thing, where if you don't particularly believe that Ellen White was a prophet, you still can be part of the fellowship. And I was looking a little bit into this 6 years ago because I was curious, because the church I came into, there were certain voices that said, if you don't believe that Ellen White is a prophet, then you can't be part of us. So I began to study that a little bit, and I was fascinated that the first generation Adventists, all of them unanimously said that she is not a test of fellowship.
Yep. Well, and there's this other end of the spectrum too of stewardship being more than just about finances, and proper biblical or stewardship of valuing things the right way. It's not singularly defined by the dollar value attached to an item. So, you could say, oh, I buy all my clothes at this store because it's cheap versus this store, which is not cheap or whatever. But then you actually look into the ethics of that company and you find out that they're exploiting human labor or whatever, engaging in unethical business practices. And you go, okay, well then, is it really worth saving $10 on a t-shirt if this company is doing this other thing that is completely antithetical to my beliefs?
Okay. And I think the overwhelming issue that we have within the confines of our church, and I need to clarify what I'm going to say. When I say whiteness, I don't mean white people. Overwhelming issue we have is whiteness. That is to say that even in multicultural situations, whiteness still dominates. Mm-hmm. And by that, what I mean is I've been a part of these Unity Days, and everything still is bent towards a Eurocentric perspective. And I've questioned, I said, can we include a little more of this and a little more of that? But what we have, people of color, what Native Americans, what those from Latino countries, what they have is not always brought into the worship service. And to take it further, it's demonized.
So there it is. I hope you enjoyed the Echo podcast. We'll see you next time.